Have you ever wondered what life in a nursing home is really like? Is it as peaceful as they say, or are there hidden truths you need to be aware of before making a decision? For many, nursing homes appear to be a safe place to spend their later years, a place of care, routine, and community. But is that the complete picture? Today, we're sharing an urgent warning from an 80-year-old woman who's witnessed the reality firsthand. Meet Margaret, a strong, independent woman who never imagined she'd end up in a nursing home. But when she did, she quickly discovered things weren't as simple as they appeared. From emotional struggles to shocking realities about care, finances, and independence, Margaret is here to share 6 powerful lessons everyone must know before making this life-changing decision. This is a revealing look at what truly happens inside nursing homes. If you, or a loved one you can't afford to miss, let's dive in. Lesson 1. The emotional toll of leaving your home. Margaret had spent over 50 years in her cozy home, a place where she raised her children, made countless memories with her late husband, and found comfort in the small things. The scent of fresh coffee in the morning, the soft creak of the wooden floors, and the view from her favorite chair by the window. But when her health declined, her family decided a nursing home was the best option. They assured her it would be safer, easier, and that she'd have 24/7 care. What they didn't realize was the deep emotional toll it would take on her. The day Margaret left her home, she felt like she was leaving a part of herself behind. Her home wasn't just a house. It was her identity, her independence, and her sanctuary. Now she was placed in a small, unfamiliar room with white walls and furniture that wasn't. Loneliness crept in quicker than expected. Initially, she tried to stay positive. It's just an adjustment period, she told herself. But as days turned into weeks, the sense of loss lingered. The routine she once enjoyed, watering her garden, choosing her meals, even deciding when to go to bed, was now dictated by others. She missed the warmth of her home, the memories it held, and the freedom to live on her own terms. Studies show that many elderly individuals experience depression and anxiety after moving into nursing homes. The loss of independence, the unfamiliar environment, and even the feeling of being a burden can deeply affect their mental health. Margaret felt it too. She wished someone had warned her about how emotionally difficult the transition would be. If you or a loved one are considering a nursing home, understand it's not just about physical care. It's about emotional well-being too. The adjustment is not always easy, and the emotional toll can be much heavier than expected. Lesson 2. The importance of social connections, or lack thereof. When Margaret first arrived at the nursing home, she was told she'd have plenty of opportunities to meet new people and stay socially engaged. The staff mentioned group activities, shared dining rooms, and a sense of community. But as the days passed, she quickly realized that reality was far from what was promised. Many residents spent most of their time alone in their rooms, lost in their own thoughts, waiting for a visit that rarely came. At first, Margaret tried to strike up conversations with others, but some were too frail to respond, others seemed uninterested, and a few simply sat in silence, staring at the walls. She noticed that mealtimes were often quiet, with everyone eating in their own little world. Some residents had family members who visited often, bringing laughter and warmth, but others, like Margaret, began to feel forgotten. One day, in particular, stuck with her. It was her birthday. At home, this was always a special occasion. Her children would visit, her grandkids would run around the house, and the smell of her favorite cake would fill the air. But here, the day passed like any other. A nurse gave her a polite happy birthday in the morning, and that was it. No family visit, no phone call. She sat by the window, staring outside, feeling an overwhelming sense of loneliness. Loneliness in nursing homes is a silent epidemic. Studies show that isolation can accelerate cognitive decline, weaken the immune system, and even shorten life expectancy. Margaret never thought she'd feel so alone, especially in a place filled with people. If there's one thing she wishes she had done differently, it's making sure she had a stronger support system before entering a nursing home. If you have an elderly loved one in a nursing home, don't let them feel forgotten. A simple phone call, a regular visit, or even a handwritten note can make all the difference. And if you're considering a nursing home for yourself, think about how you'll maintain those social connections, because without them, even the safest place can feel like the loneliest in the world. Lesson 3. Quality of care can vary greatly. When Margaret moved into the nursing home, she assumed that professional caregivers would always be there when she needed them. After all, wasn't that the whole point of being in a facility like this? But it didn't take long for her to realize that not all nursing homes provide the same level of care. Some are well-staffed with compassionate workers who treat residents like family. Others, however, struggle with staff shortages, low budgets, and employees who are overworked and undertrained, leading to neglect, frustration, and in some cases, dangerous situations. One night, Margaret pressed her call button because she needed help getting to the bathroom. She waited and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. By the time someone finally arrived, she had already struggled to get up on her own, risking a fall. When she asked the nurse why it took so long, she was told, "We're short on staff tonight. We're doing the best we can." Unfortunately, this wasn't a one-time issue. It was a common occurrence. She also noticed that some residents received very little personal attention. One man, Mr. Harris, had difficulty feeding himself, but on busy days, the staff would simply leave his tray on the table and walk away. By the time they returned, the food was cold and untouched. No one had checked to see if he had eaten. Then there was Mrs. Doyle, who had a medical condition that required regular monitoring, but because the nurses were stretched so thin, she often went hours without being checked on. Of course, not all nursing homes are like this. There are facilities with dedicated, well-trained staff who genuinely care about their residents. Margaret heard about a friend in another facility where caregivers took the time to sit and chat with residents, learn their personal preferences, and treat them with the dignity they deserved. The difference? That nursing home had better funding, more staff, and a leadership team that prioritized quality care. This is why it's critical to do thorough research before choosing a nursing home. Don't just trust the brochures or the sales pitch. Visit in person, talk to residents, and observe how the staff interacts with them. Because at the end of the day, the quality of care isn't just about comfort. It's about safety, dignity, and your overall well-being. Lesson 4. The impact on personal independence. For most of her life, Margaret made her own decisions. She chose when to wake up, what to eat, when to go for a walk, and how to spend her day. She had a routine she loved, brewing her own coffee in the morning, reading by the window in the afternoon, and deciding what she wanted for dinner. But when she moved into the nursing home, she quickly realized her independence was slipping away. Everything now ran on a strict schedule. Wake-up time, set meal times, non-negotiables. Even when she wanted to take a simple walk outside, she had to wait for a staff member to be available to accompany her. At home, she could decide what to eat based on what she felt like that day. Here, the menu was fixed, and if she didn't like what was served, she had little choice but to accept it. The loss of control over her daily life was frustrating, even suffocating at times. Margaret remembered meeting another resident, Mr. Thompson, who had been fiercely independent. He had traveled the world, fixed his own car well into his 70s, and took pride in being self-sufficient. But now, he had to ask for help with the simplest things: getting dressed, showering, and even choosing what clothes to wear. He once confided in Margaret, saying, "I feel like a child again, but not in a good way. It's like I've lost control over my own life." The frustration was clear in his voice. Losing independence is one of the hardest adjustments for many seniors in nursing homes. While the staff is there to provide care and safety, the trade-off is often a loss of autonomy and privacy. Simple freedoms, like deciding when to take a nap or what to do in the evening, can be taken away. And for those who have spent a lifetime making their own choices, this can be incredibly difficult to accept. If you or a loved one are considering a nursing home, think carefully about how much independence you're willing to give up. Some facilities offer more flexibility than others, but no matter where you go, life will never be as self-directed as it was at home. It's something many people don't fully realize until they experience it firsthand. Lesson 5. Financial burdens. Margaret had spent her entire life being careful with money. 4. She saved diligently, paid off her home, and lived within her means. But nothing could have prepared her for the staggering costs of a nursing home. When she and her family first explored their options, the price tag was shocking. Several $1,000s per month, sometimes even more, depending on the level of care. And that was just for the basics. Extra services, medications, and personal care all came with additional fees. At first, Margaret thought her savings would be enough. But after just a year, she watched her nest egg shrink at an alarming rate. Her pension covered only a fraction of the costs, and soon, she had to dip into her emergency funds. She realized that if she lived another 5 or 10 years, she could completely run out of money. She had a friend, Mrs. Callahan, who had been in the same situation. After only 3 years in a nursing home, her savings were gone. She had no choice but to switch to a lower quality facility that accepted government assistance, a place where conditions were far worse. The truth is, many people don't fully understand the financial burden of long-term care until they're faced with it. Families often assume insurance or government programs will cover the costs, only to find out too late that coverage is limited or doesn't apply to the level of care needed. And if a couple is still living together, the cost of one spouse entering a nursing home can quickly drain the resources needed for the other to live comfortably. This is why it's critical to plan ahead. Whether it's exploring long-term care insurance, researching affordable alternatives, or having honest financial discussions with family, knowing the potential costs can help prevent devastating financial strain. Because the reality is, growing old is expensive, and nursing homes can be one of the biggest expenses of all. Lesson 6. Hidden dangers of the nursing home environment. When Margaret first moved into the nursing home, she assumed she would be safer there than living alone. But what she quickly realized was that while help was available, new risks had also emerged. Risks no one had warned her about. Falls, infections, and even mistreatment were more common than she had expected. The scariest part? Many of these dangers were hidden, only becoming obvious after it was too late. She remembered hearing about Mr. Jensen, a quiet man in his 80s, who suffered a serious fall while trying to get to the bathroom at night. The hallways were dimly lit, and with limited staff available, no one had responded quickly when he called for help. He was found over an hour later, lying on the floor in pain. The fall left him with a broken hip, an injury that for many seniors can signal the beginning of a rapid decline. Then there were the infections, WSD. With so many people living in close quarters, illnesses spread easily. Margaret herself caught pneumonia within her first few months, something she never had when she was living at home. And she wasn't alone. Residents frequently dealt with urinary tract infections, bed sores, and even foodborne illnesses from improperly handled meals. In some cases, these conditions were left untreated for too long, leading to hospitalizations that could have been prevented with better care. But perhaps the most unsettling issue was the risk of mistreatment. Margaret had heard whispers about some residents being ignored, belittled, or even physically handled too roughly by staff. One woman confided in her that her roommate's belongings often went missing, but when she reported it, no one seemed to care. While many caregivers were kind and dedicated, there were always a few who saw elderly residents as burdens rather than people deserving of dignity and respect. So, how can you protect yourself or a loved one from these dangers? The key is research and vigilance. Before choosing a nursing home, visit unannounced at different times of the day. Talk to other residents, observe how staff interact with them, check reviews, and look for health and safety violations. Most importantly, make sure there's a plan in place to address any concerns that arise. Because once you're in, getting out of a bad situation can be much harder than you think. Nursing homes are supposed to provide comfort and care, but not all of them live up to that promise. For those who don't prepare or ask the right questions, the consequences can be devastating. Conclusion. Margaret's story is a reminder that moving into a nursing home is not just a simple decision. It's a life-changing one. While some facilities provide excellent care, others come with hidden challenges that can take a serious toll on physical, emotional, and financial well-being. That's why it's so important to research, plan ahead, and ask the tough questions before making the move. You or a loved one are considering a nursing home. Take the time to think carefully about what you truly need. And if you've already experienced life in one, we'd love to hear from you. Comment 9 if you believe nursing homes can be a good option with the right choice, or 0 if you think they should be avoided whenever possible. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on aging wisely. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.